I'm over it. Man, this is ridiculous. Okay, but I do have to shoot the video, so let's get into it. My name is Jordan Hardison, CEO of AIO.Church, and this is the craziest news in the history of AI. Absolutely insane. I'm sure that you know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, then you're either not into AI in any kind of significant way, or I don't even know what's going on. They're not even putting it on the news, but I got to talk about what happened with Claude, Fable 5, Claude Mythos 5. Man, I'll tell you what, as soon as, and I'm getting ahead of myself, let me just help you out real quick. Hey, if you're watching the video, thanks for jumping in, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. We talk about AI, we talk about all kinds of different stuff on this channel, but I want to jump right in here. I'm going to start by talking about what's going on in the news with AI right now, and then I'm going to jump into how I'm reacting to this news. How am I using this news? What is this shifting in my business and in my development flow? And that's going to be it for the video. So I want to jump in with, I started using Fable 5 the moment it became available. As soon as it was available, I was using it. In fact, the actual API cost of usage is that I used over $5,000 worth of API cost of Fable 5 in the 3 days that it was available to me. And then I think on Friday night, we get the news that they are banning or requiring, let me just jump into it and show it to you. So if you look on my screen right now, this is the actual X post that Anthropic put up on Friday night. It says the U.S. government, citing national security authorities, has issued an export control directive to suspend all access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 by any foreign national, whether inside or outside the United States, including foreign national Anthropic employees. That's absolutely insane. And then it says the net effect of this order is that we must abruptly disable Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for all customers to ensure compliance. Access to all other Claude models is not affected. We apologize for this disruption for our customers. We believe this is a misunderstanding and are working to restore access as soon as possible. So this is significantly important, and I think this is more important than people are realizing it. I'm surprised that this is not all over national news right now, because this is a big deal. This model was unlike any other model that had ever been put out. It felt different. It was not just a step up from Opus 4.8. It was significantly different. It was significantly more capable. I was able to trust the model with my work. I really didn't even have to steer it in a direction very well. It was just, it was such an incredible model and incredibly capable. And supposedly the story goes that somebody from Amazon was able to jailbreak the model. They were able to get past some of the safeguards of the model, because what we're being told is that Fable 5 is Mythos 5. It is the Mythos model, but it has guardrails on top of it. And so what we're being told is that they were able to jailbreak or get around some of those guardrails that gave them access to Mythos 5 capability without the guardrails. And then this caused red flags. They then, the CEO of Amazon, they ended up taking that all the way to the White House. The White House looked at the situation and told Anthropic, hey, you need to fix this. Now, the story goes that Dario Amati, the CEO of Anthropic, told them, no, it wasn't a big deal. We don't need to fix it. That this is the same jailbreaking capability that GPT 5.5 has, the same thing that is in the frontier models. In fact, this particular jailbreak did not actually provide any uplift from Mythos anyway, that it was really not something to be concerned about. And obviously the US government disagreed with that. Anthropic refused to make the change immediately. The US government then said that they are going to initiate an export control directive that was going to suspend access to the model to any non-US citizen, or basically any foreign national. And this is really problematic, because then Anthropic comes back and says, well, we don't have a reasonable way of doing that. And so the only way for us to ensure that we're going to comply with this is to take down the model completely. And just like that, we saw Fable 5 get taken away. I want to jump into the full statement here. We can see it here on Anthropic site, statement on U.S. government directive to suspend access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5. There's a few things that are interesting here that actually contradict some of the other stories that are coming out now. But Anthropic's posture was laid out like this. We have instituted strong safeguards that greatly reduce the likelihood that Fable is misused for tasks related to cybersecurity, among others. In fact, our safeguards are so strong that many users have complained that they are overly broad. Now, that's true. People have been saying that they are not able to get Fable 5 to do what they want it to do. It's important to understand that the same functionality of the model that is able to create a very safe code base is the same part of the model that is able to crack that code base. And this is important. So they should not lobotomize the model in order to try to make it safer, because it actually ends up producing a lot of code that is actually not safe. So it has the reverse effect on it. So these safeguards are important, but it's important that they don't actually take away the capability of the model. And then they're talking about the weeks leading up to that. I'm going to keep going here. They're talking about the testing that they did. No testers have been able to find a universal jailbreak. So all this is really, really interesting stuff. What I want to bring out about this, though, and this is kind of what bothered me. There's a lot of things that bothered me about this. Number one, I feel like the reaction from the U.S. government that bothers me because it felt very reactionary. In fact, if you look at the drama that was going on between the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, or Department of War now, with Anthropic earlier on, I mean, it almost looks like there's a vendetta against Anthropic, and this is being played out in this way. But I also do understand the legitimate national security concern if this can be used as a cyber weapon, or if it can be used to create weaponry or to do harm to the United States of America. The problem with this, and the problem, the disruption that AI is going to cause moving forward is this. So you have to think about the cycle that's happening with the development of AI. So you have these AI companies that are developing this incredible technology, and they're doing it, and they're receiving funding through the revenue that they're bringing in from all over the world. So this is a global product, global income source from all over the world. They're using this income to buy hardware. So they're buying chips. These chips are being brought in. They're being created. They're buying these chips, and then they're building data centers, and they're using the data centers to train their model and to create a better model, and the process repeats itself. So the problem is there's billions of dollars being ordered in chips. There's billions of dollars of space being rented, like from SpaceX, which is something we'll talk about in a minute. But that is based on the trajectory of the growth of the company, which is obviously considering the use of Fable 5 in the public setting. And so when the U.S. government comes in and they say, okay, you are not allowed to use this model if you are not a U.S. citizen, this creates a significant decrease in revenue. Now, it decreases the need for compute, but it also decreases revenue that Anthropic is going to make. This is going to slow them down. This is a problem, especially if our adversaries, or if China, for example, is not slowing down in the same way. So we've seen that it only takes a few months for China to catch up to whatever the frontier model is that's in the U.S. And so by creating this directive, you are on one side trying to protect national security. On the other side, you're slowing down innovation, you're slowing down progress, which is giving more time for China to catch up. Not only that, if they don't bring in the revenue that they're supposed to bring in, that means that they are not going to be able to afford the orders for the chips that they've placed. So what's going to happen with these orders? I mean, this is a global economic issue. This is something that affects the entire global economy. This is not something that's just a small thing that happened. It's a very, very big thing that happened. And if they do not get it figured out fast, it's going to cause a problem for the economy. The entire United States economy is banking on AI working. It's banking on AI progressing. That's what we're seeing in the U.S. economy right now. So if we slow that down, that could cause a huge ripple in the economy if these orders are not able to be fulfilled, because I can't even imagine the amount of revenue loss that would come if these particular technologies are banned to just people in the US. Now, again, I totally understand the national security implications of it. I don't even know what to think because I don't know which side is better. I don't know. You almost have to put it all into one big calculator and determine what the net positive is on it. But it's important to understand that this is a big deal and this is a precedence that's being set. Now, this is not the only time that the US government has said that a company cannot sell technology to our adversaries. One of the key examples that come to my mind is Lockheed's F-22 Raptor, right? The United States military is the only people who are allowed to have access to that airplane, despite all kinds of awesome jets that are currently available to other people, like the F-16, like the F-35. We're selling these all over the world, but the F-22 is only accessible to the U.S. military. So this is not totally unprecedented, but this is the first time that the actual model itself, the intelligence of the model, is being limited. Not just the chips, not just the hardware that it's being built on, but the actual model itself. Now, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin that I just don't understand is why is it so hard for Anthropic, which is just billions and billions and billions of dollars of asset value? How are they not able to immediately solve this problem? Like, number one, can they fix the jailbreak issue? Well, it's probably impossible to prevent any type of jailbreak scenario, that could possibly exist. So I give them that. I understand that. But if the whole problem is the U.S. government does not want foreign nationals having access to the model, that's really, really simple, Anthropic. Like, really simple. Just create a validation process that verifies that you are a U.S. citizen in order for you to be able to use the model. It's kind of simple. Like, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. If you think I'm missing something, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. But to me, this is very simple. I think that Anthropic is playing politics, right? They could fix this problem and they could bring this model back, but instead they are going to argue with the U.S. government. They're going to say, fine, you know what? If we can't do it the way we want to do it, then nobody has access to it. And that's what I feel like happened. Maybe I'm wrong. Listen, I have been an Anthropic supporter from the very, very beginning, but I'm really frustrated. I'm frustrated because a lot of you experience the same thing. If you're a developer, if you use AI to code, or you're a vibe coder, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you got any time on Fable, I mean, when Fable went away, it was like, we loved Opus 4.8, not so much 4.7. We loved 4.8. GPT 5.5 is great. But all of a sudden, when we lost Fable, it was like, is it even worth continuing before they bring Fable 5 back? Like, because Fable 5 could do something in an hour that it would take Opus 4.8 multiple hours to do. So it's like, am I wasting time by trying to continue my work with GPT 5.5 or with Opus 4.8, or should I just wait for Fable to come back? And man, I was really having a hard time with that. And so now, as I'm thinking, like, what happens next, right? What happens next? I was reminded that June 15th, which is today, the day the video is being shot, that Anthropic is removing programmatic access to Claude. Like, this is another huge, huge problem. Like, okay, I understand that they can only subsidize AI for so much. I'm not saying that they should be in business to lose money. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that this is a huge, huge hit on the use of AI when it comes to utilizing Anthropic products. Man, we have AIO Assist. AIO Assist, the Claude has been the driver of AIO Assist through Claude Code. As Claude Code is the primary harness, and AIO Assist has wrapped it in a way that is in line with the terms of service of Claude Code, and they are removing programmatic access, which creates a huge problem for AIO Assist. Don't worry, we've already solved the problem. You can still use Claude Code in AIO Assist and still abide by the terms of service, but it's like it created a huge, huge mess. So, as I'm thinking about what happens next, like, are we going to move into a model where it's no longer going to be subscription based? We're just going to pay for API usage. The problem with the US rates of API usage is if we no longer have access to subscription use, it is going to create a definitive class system. And that class system is going to be, on one side, you are going to have the very, very wealthy companies that have access to this technology, and using that technology can rapidly expand and widen the gap between their capability and what the smaller guys can do. The entire wave of AI that we've been in, one of the reasons why it's so significant right now is because it allows the underdogs and the little guys to be able to build technology that can actually come close to competing with some of these larger companies. But if we're moving away from this subscription model, if we're moving to just pure API pricing based on the current pricing, if the expectation is that you are a US citizen, a US company wanting to use US models, this becomes impractical very, very quickly, and it creates this massive divide between the super rich and the people who are able to have access to it, and then the smaller people who can't. And this is something that I am very, very concerned about with AI. I think AI can be great for all of our civilization, but it is going to be a problem if you have these massive gaps in capability between the biggest companies and the smallest companies. So let me know what you think about that. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that particular issue. Put them in the comments. Now, the other thing too is as I did more research, I've kind of had my eyes closed a little bit using Anthropic, and I am understanding more about Anthropic's position when it comes to AI, and particularly their CEO's position when it comes to AI. And it actually kind of starts to all come together, and it all starts to make sense, right? So for months, Anthropic has been saying that they have created a model, which is Mythos, that is a cyber weapon. They have created a model that is dangerous. They have written article after article after article about it. The CEO is saying, hey, this needs to be regulated, right? We've got to regulate this. Then they go out and they say, he calls for a global pause on the development of AI. And it's like, after all of that, you say that over and over and over again. Well, guess what, buddy? You release your model to the public. You give people access to it. 3 days later, the US government takes it down because they're regulating it. And you act like you're surprised. You have been calling for this regulation for months and months. And now it's happening. And my thing is like, as a customer of Anthropic, yes, I understand global scale, global economy. I understand national security. I understand you need to keep things safe. But just really quick, let's dumb it down. As a consumer who is paying for the service that Anthropic is providing, keep your mouth shut. Like, I am paying you to use these models. You are generating the revenue off of those models, and then you are going and telling the US government that they need to regulate my usage of your model that I'm paying for, right? To me, it's very frustrating. And I understand it's all marketing, right? Like, think about what that ad's going to look like, right? Of all of the frontier companies that have built AI models, there is but one company who has built a model that is so powerful that the US government has felt it needed to regulate, and that is Anthropic. I get it from a marketing standpoint, but guess what? This user who has loved Anthropic from the very beginning is not impressed. I am frustrated. It is hurting my workflow. So, man, I don't know what that's all about. And that's causing me to actually shift my thinking and how I'm going to operate my company moving forward. And this gets to the next part of the video. Now, I am not impressed with benchmarks. I'm not a huge fan of benchmarks. I feel like benchmarks really don't do a great job explaining what's actually happening. There's a difference between what the numbers say in the benchmarks and what's actually used. What your experience is when you're actually using the model. But I started to get to thinking like, what do I actually want? What do I actually want, right? I want a model that's going to work really well. Of course, I want frontier level. I want it to be able to be super capable. But I actually want to like the company that I'm investing in. I want to like the people who are running the company that I'm investing in. And so as I look at these benchmarks, I notice that there's one key player that is consistently missing on these benchmarks, and that is Grok. Why is Grok missing on these benchmarks? Now, I don't have the clear answer to that. I'm going to be honest with you. I wanted to do the video today. I wanted to jump on this Fable news and talk to you about that, let you know what's going on. So I don't have all of these answers, and maybe you do. And if you do, put them in the subscription. I want to know what you think about this. But as I'm looking at it, I am noticing that Grok is missing from a lot of these benchmarks. Is it because it's not capable enough? Are they not producing the data? What does it come down to? And I also look at, I used to pay really close attention to SWE Bench Verified, right? I wanted to know how the models were doing on SWE Bench verified. And I noticed that all of a sudden, once Opus 4.8 came out, it's like we're not even talking about Sweetbench verified anymore. That's old news. You know, the models are becoming more capable of predicting what the benchmark is going to ask for. Whatever the reasoning is, it's becoming less and less important because it's not giving an accurate representation of the capability of the model. And so we are moving now into Sweetbench Pro, which is harder and a more realistic use case of the coding performance of the model. And this is where things get interesting. So I'm going to pull this up, right? This is just something that was just whipped up super fast just to show it to you and to illustrate it. But Sweetbench verified, we have Claude Fable scoring 95%, right? Just completely screaming above everything else. I mean, and it feels like that. I mean, it felt like that when using the model. Then you have Claude Opus 4.8, 88.6%, which is, again, very, very strong, very incredibly strong. I don't even know that we could have imagined this a year ago. Then we have GPT 5.5, which a lot of people are very impressed with. A lot of people are using GPT 5.5. I'm using GPT 5.5 as well, 82.6%. And then Grok 4 Heavy, we have this approximate range of 72 to 76%. Now, why is it an approximate range? It's because XAI and SpaceX, they are not actually publishing these benchmarks formally. This is what third-party reporting says the model is capable of doing, 72 to 76%. This is not impressive, right? Not impressive. However, when you look at Sweetbench Pro, it tells a little bit of a different story. So when you look at this, you see Claude Fable 5 at 80.3%. Again, clearly the leader, right? Clearly ahead, clearly the leader. Then you have Claude Opus 4.8, 69.2. This was the best model like a week ago, okay? Best model a week ago. Now it feels terrible because we've all had access to Fable, but it's still a great model. After Opus 4.8, then you have a really interesting situation. You have Grok 4 Heavy. Now, again, these benchmarks are not being released by SpaceX XAI directly. This is what's happening by third-party reporting. But Grok 4 Heavy, notice 64 to 75%. That is a big, big range. That catches my attention because what you notice about this is that GPT 5.5, which is a very, very capable model, is at 58.6%. It's clearly noticeably behind Fable 5. I'm really interested to see what GPT 5.6 is going to look like. Is it going to look more like Opus 4.8 or is it going to look more like Fable 5? I think it's going to look more like Opus 4.8, not so much like Fable 5, but we'll have to see what happens when it comes out. Supposedly it's coming out this week, this month, I don't know, sometime very soon. But if you look at Grok 4 Heavy, even on the lower approximate side, Grok 4 Heavy is outperforming GPT 5.5 on Sweetbench Pro. This catches my attention. On the higher side of the range of what people are getting out of this model is 75%. That is significant. That is a big jump above Opus 4.8. And that is trailing only 5 points behind Fable 5. That's kind of a big deal. Why is no one talking about this? Man, honestly, I don't know. I think the reason why people are not talking about this is because the benchmarks are not clearly available. People are really interested in what's going on with Anthropic and what's going on with OpenAI. I think that SpaceX is the one to watch. They're the company that I want to do business with. They are the company that I want to work with. Like when I have a question about anything going on the internet or I want to jump around my day-to-day AI use, it's always Grok. And so this has caught my attention and this is causing me to want to lean more in the direction of Grok. Now, what also has me interested is potential for the future. So Grok is late to the game. They came in much after OpenAI, much after Anthropic, after Google. Like Grok really came late to the game. But what's so impressive about Grok is, number one, their hardware. So when it comes to actual compute, they have access to way, way, way more compute. In fact, you have companies like Google, you have companies like Anthropic that are now renting space or leasing compute from SpaceX because of the amount of hardware and compute that they have, right? The leadership of SpaceX and XAI through Tesla, SpaceX, XAI, they have proven that they are able to be innovative and be able to be innovative extremely rapidly, unlike other players in the industry. And so when you look at the change in Grok, Grok has significantly improved in capability in the last few months, but certainly in the last 6 months. I think this is something to really pay attention to. And then the huge news that we talked about for a minute and then everybody forgot about is terafab, right? So there's a huge political storm going on right now on the local scale of people not wanting data centers in their neighborhoods, in their counties. And this is going to be a problem for the expansion of AI. So what is the solution to it? Well, SpaceX believes that the solution to that is to move AI compute to space. This would be an absolute absurd idea if you were not the leading launch provider in the world. So they are the leading launch provider in the world. They are absolutely professionals at mass production. They've proven this with Tesla, right? They have proven that they can create mega constellations of satellites in space through Starlink. So they have shown that this technology is more than possible. What's crazy about this is that if they can take these satellites, right? So what do? They build these terafab chips using their production capabilities and their manufacturing capabilities. They launch them on Starship, which is going to be the least expensive launch vehicle effectively ever created when it comes to mass to LEO. And then they take these satellites, they put them in LEO, or in this particular case, they put them in sun synchronous orbit. It's a great idea to put them in sun synchronous orbit because they are always in the sun, meaning unlimited energy through massive solar panels. And then the backside of the satellite being in the shade is super, super cool, which they can use different cryogenic fluids within that super cold environment in order to extract the heat out of the chips. It's not just going to extract into space because we know that space is not a very good conductor, but if you have some sort of cryogenic liquid that can be cooled by the environment of space, you can extract the heat into the liquid. You know, I think this is a fantastic idea, and they have proven that they can get this really, really fast. Man, I think that when you look at the trajectory of where AI is going, SpaceX is absolutely at the top. And it's already starting to happen because these other companies are having to buy and rent and lease compute from SpaceX. I think that this is absolutely the future of what's going to happen with AI. So what does that mean for me? That means that I am going all in on Grok build, going all in on it. So I have a Grok heavy account. I'm transitioning away from Anthropic. I'm transitioning into Grok. I'm going to be testing Grok significantly throughout this next week. I can't wait to come back next week and tell you how it's going. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. But what I'm also excited about is that later today, shortly after this video goes live, we are going to be updating AIO Assist to fully support Grok build directly in the platform. And I want to encourage you to jump in there and let me know what you think about it. Hey, this has been my update for this week of what's going on in AI. If you like the channel, if you think this is useful to you, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share the video, whatever it takes to drive the algorithm up so that we can get this information to more and more people. Man, I cannot wait to the next video, and I'll see you then. Thanks for jumping in. Awesome. Good take. Yeah, man, I hope this thing works out with Grok. But if Fable comes back,